Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Hey, everybody. I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining me every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we get right down to it, rocking and rolling here on the free show. Obviously, this is hopefully, I don't know if it's obvious, hopefully a gateway drug for all of you. Yeah, I know. We're talking about drug use here on the show early in the morning on a Tuesday. I'm just kidding. Hopefully you like what you see here and you say, you know what, I'm going to go to fantasyguru.com and I'm going to click that subscribe tab in the top right corner and I'm going to sign up for your baseball product. I'm going to sign up for your football product. Hell, I want to get your MMA work. I want to get involved with DFS. I want to get involved with wagering. I want to get involved with seasonal. We've got you covered with all of those things right now over at fantasyguru.com. So just click the subscribe tab on the top right and it'll take you right to the page you need to be. We also got the fantasy football product live right now. This will tie into baseball in one brief moment. You can get the all-in package right now if you go to fantasyguru.com. That gets everything. Every article, every sport, every Discord room, everything we do. So get the all-in package. You're carried through the year with everything you need. If you get the basic package for football, you get what you see on the screen there. You get more than that too, but that's what you see. That's what you get, with what you see there. You get player profiles. You get coaching and system breakdowns, mock draft and trade simulator. You get a custom scoring cheat sheet, auction draft books. There'll be multiple ones, IDP rankings, Superflex and 2QB charts, 24/7 Discord access, which is great. You can ask your question, get your answers, weekly live streams with the crew. All of that at fantasyguru.com if you get the basic football package. Now, this is interesting. If you now then, there's multiple packages. You get the all-in, which is everything, the football basic, which is what we're talking about here, the elite seasonal, and here's the interesting part. The elite seasonal includes the data package, so you get all the data that we use, all the fancy numbers and math and all that kind of stuff. You also get NFL franchise mode, so you get all the coverage of all the rookies and everything like that from the offseason. You also get CFL and UFL coverage for free. We tossed that in there. Yes, there are other sports, other leagues that play football. But here's the most interesting part for me, at least, maybe for you. If you sign up for the Elite Seasonal Package, which gets you all the football stuff we're talking about, you also get seasonal baseball for free. We'll give it to you for free. Toss it in. So everything we talk about here on the show, and then plus all the articles at fantasyguru.com, the Rays ramblings pieces, the analysis pieces. You get access to the Discord room where you can ask those questions about trades and such. You get access to the rankings, which gets updated the first of every month. I update the entire rankings universe the first of every month. So there'll be July 1st, August 1st, September 1st. You get access to that. That's included in the Elite Seasonal Package for free at fantasyguru.com. Check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. What are we talking about today here? Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can follow me on the social medias at the Ray Flowers. You can find my show. It's Elite Sports Game Time with Justin Fensterman. There it is on the screen, 8 to 10 Eastern, Monday through Thursday. We've got the show going for the rest of the month, and then it kind of goes away. So get in there, check it out. We talk about the DFS articles from the day. We talk about the bets that we have placed. We talk about game action, the live that's happening. Last night we talked some Stanley Cup. We'll obviously talk some NBA when that's playing. Lots of baseball. That's kind of the focus of the show. So check that out, 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday. And then the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Manns is Monday through Friday at 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, as you can see there, in red at the top, I figured we'd spend a few moments talking about this, making decisions on players, when to sell your players. This is a topic that's coming up a lot. I think people are using this as kind of the, we're a couple months in. Let's figure out where our teams are at. It's a good time to reassess kind of where you're at. Maybe we start making some trades. So I wanted to talk to you all about the right time to make moves. So we'll get into that a little bit. Not a big slate of games last night, but we'll talk about guys like Jake Cronenworth, Anthony Rizzo, Erick Fedde, Michael Kopech, and Chris Paddack. Then on the injury front, unfortunately, a lot of guys to talk about there. Munoz and Romano in the bullpen. Kyle Tucker, Yainer, Diaz, Hunter Renfroe, Elias Diaz, Wilmer Flores, Matt Chapman, Manny Machado, good news. Joe Ross, Robert Gasser, not good news. So you can follow us there, and you see it on the screen as well, live. You can ask your questions. You can watch the show live as it's streaming and also ask questions at facebook.com/fantasyguruhq. Same thing over on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. And then, of course, You can click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page at fantasyguru.com, or just type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network. Leave your comments. We'll get to those at the end of the show. Okay, let's start off there with the topic at the top, making decisions on players when to sell. And I think that, again, this is a good time of year to do it. We've been patient. We've identified strengths of our team. We've identified weaknesses of our team. Let's go. Let's make the decisions to carry us on to championships in 2024. One of the biggest decisions that people make is one of the biggest decisions they make is the roster composition they have. And what often happens, and I've seen this a lot the last 3 or 4 days, people want to make moves with players, obviously selling guys they no longer want, getting guys they want. Okay, in theory, that is the right thing to do, of course. Now, the problem we run into is that, I think the timing aspect gets lost on a bunch of people. And this is something that Kyle Elfrink and I talked about for years, literally years. I think we did a show together for 14 plus years. And we talked about this every year. And it was one of the things Kyle always harped on. And he was right. I know, it's shocking. He was right about a few things. You have to make a decision on a player and then stick to it, right? And I think the problem that a lot of people make is they make the decisions and then they don't necessarily stick to it. By that I mean Shota Imanaga as an example, right? Imanaga is pitching like he's the best pitcher in the history of the sport, right? He's just killing it. And he's rolling through everybody. And he's striking everybody out. And he's not allowing any runs. And his ERA is 1 and all these things. And we all know in the back of our head, we all know that he's not going to win the Cy Young Award as, the best pitcher the Cubs have seen since Fergie Jenkins. Or maybe that's not fair. Rick Sutcliffe. I'm just throwing random names out there. That's not going to happen. But no one wants to trade Imanaga when his ERA is 0.84, right? No one wants to do that. Then he goes out and he gives up 6 runs to the Brewers, or 7 runs to the Brewers, excuse me. Then he gets beat down by the White Sox, which is concerning because it's the White Sox. Then he gives up, 5 runs. Only 1 is earned, but that's 12 runs in 2 starts to the White Sox. Last time out, he was back on quality start train, and now people want to trade him. And I get it. Again, I would have, and here's the part about when to sell players. You have to understand the timing aspect of things. You have to make a decision. Do I want 30 starts? I'm just using Imanaga as an example because he's come up multiple times again the last week or 2 weeks, actually. Do we want to use Imanaga for 28 starts this year or not? Okay. That decision should have been made a month ago, not now. And the reason is now you want to get rid of Imanaga because he's given up, 14 runs in his last, 14 innings. I get it. But now whoever you're trying to trade him to has seen the 14 runs and 14 innings too. And now they're leery about giving Imanaga a full return. If you had traded Imanaga back on the 20th of May, your return would have been banging. And I've said this multiple times, not just Imanaga, around other players. It's just the timing aspect of this is so important because in our minds, we always think that, we always want to win a trade. It's very important psychologically to win a trade, both for us making the trade and for the people on the other side getting the trade. You want to win the trade. And for some reason, some people have a belief that, if Imanaga, as an example, has got an ERA of 1, he's fantastic. If his ERA is 2, well, now I'm a little concerned. Did these people really think his ERA was going to be 1 this year? Come on. And I got news for you. His ERA is 1.96 right now. It's probably going to be 2.96 by the time the season's over, right? Let's be honest. Might even be higher than that. And so it's very important to make a determination on who a player is and then stick with it. If you're an Imanaga guy and you want him to make 28 starts, you don't care if he's allowed 14 runs in 14 innings. You don't like it. You don't care. You go through it. If you were never in on Imanaga, you should have sold him 3 weeks ago when his value was at an all-time high. Right? So we can't time the market in terms of what player performance is going to be, just like the stock market. You can't make that trade the day the guy's going to start to struggle or the day he's going to start to hit. You can't do that. What you can do is play the public perception game. And the public perception game was, again, 3 weeks ago with Imanaga, he was a superstar and he's having a great season. And there were people saying that he was a better signing than Yoshi Yamamoto with the Dodgers. There were people saying that, talking about it on TV. Okay. If you were going to deal Imanaga, that was when to deal him. At the point where people were comparing him to a superior pitcher. and saying that he was the best like offseason signing on the hill in Major League Baseball. That was the time to trade him. Now the luster's off a little bit and the offers aren't as strong. I'm not saying you can't move him now, but the point is, as we're talking through this, you have to understand the process in the better way to do this. And the better way to do this is not to have a guy, not really be sold on the guy, love his production though, and just roll with that. And then as soon as he starts to slump, then trade him. Okay. But the person you're trying to trade him to is seeing the exact same thing. So this is why it's so important, going back to Kyle, making the decision on who a player is, because you have to decide before this starts what you're going to do. What is your goal with every player on your roster, right? And if your goal is to maximize a return on a player that you're not sold on, Munoz should have been traded 3 weeks ago. That's just, and it's just, and again, I'm just using this as an example, and this is not directed at any single person because this has come up on Twitter. This has come up, I think Facebook, someone asked me, this has come up all over the place. This is just, we have to understand the value of players and the perception of players. And I talk about this a lot with people in Discord, right? It's like, I'm going to make this trade, Ray. What do you think? And I say, I don't mind the trade. And this happens a lot, right? I don't mind this trade at all. I kind of like this trade for you. But, and here's the but, I don't think you have to give up that much to get that guy. Because the perception is that guy's not as good as we know he is. So I just wanted to have a little talk because I've seen this a lot of the trade stuff is coming up now, and again, it's a good time. I think it's the right thing to do. I'm not telling anyone to back off that, but understand, if you don't like a guy all of a sudden, the other person probably doesn't either. If you now think you can get rid of the guy, the other person's probably looking at him the same way. So you have to have the conviction to say, yes, this guy's balling out, but I'm moving on. It's, Connor Joe I wrote about, or I'm going to write about today. Same thing, right? We talked about Connor Joe a lot. Connor Joe was great in April, and in May, he was just a guy. And in the end, right now, he's just a guy. Did you listen to my advice when I said Connor Joe's just a guy, or did you hold on to him and now have no value, nothing you can do except have just a guy on your roster? The timing piece is big. And again, I'm not always right about players. Sometimes I'm wrong about players, and we talk about it here on the show. No one's perfect, and I'm certainly not. But we have to understand the timing component and the importance of that. Again, I make decisions on players, and I stick with it. Some of you don't like it because I'm too slow to change, and I get that. But I make my decisions on players. Right or wrong, I make the decision on players. You got to understand that when you're talking about the trade front, and also understand that, and there was a good trade offer this morning. I was going back and forth with someone in social. There was pitching involved and everything like that. Sometimes you got to trade big guys to get guys back. I mean, that's just, if you want to get Adolis Garcia or Kyle Schwarber, you're going to have to trade a good player. That's just how that's going to be. So you have to understand too, that you have to have a willingness to not try to rip people off in a trade, because most of the time you're not going to rip them off. If you do rip them off, it engenders negativity. And your league mates get upset and people get mad and maybe they leave leagues or they quit playing, all this kind of stuff. Like, your goal shouldn't be to rip people off. It should be to win a trade, but not rip people off. And you have to understand that sometimes, in order to give, you got to give. And if you're not willing to do that, if you're always trying to trade a C+ player to get an A- guy back, you're not going to have success in the trade market. Sometimes you got to trade a B+ guy to get a B+ guy. And the fit is better. You need power, you need speed, you need that extra pitcher, you need a bullpen arm, whatever. Sometimes it's okay to do a trade where no one really wins. You just get what you need. So factor that all in. Hopefully that makes sense. I just wanted to address it because, again, I saw it kind of as a theme it's come up a lot here the last maybe 10 or so days. Okay, let's talk about some of the performances last night on the old diamond. Let me put this in the right spot because Ray clearly didn't do his homework properly because I screwed up the order that I have these guys listed. I have a sheet where to kind of go through. You can see it on the screen there. I probably should just use that. Oftentimes I don't. I don't know why. Because I just like being difficult. I'm looking at this screen. I don't know. Does this matter? I don't think it matters. For those of you wondering what I'm talking about because you're listening, there is me on the screen with the video and all of that. So I try to, shave a little bit. It looks like my beard's a little floofy on that side. I try to do some things to make this somewhat enjoyable physically in terms of the eye appeal. But let's get into it. Let's talk about Jake Cronenworth. And Jake Cronenworth had a home run, a double, scored twice. He was in the cash game breakdown over at fantasyguru.com in the core 4. He was also in the GPP core 4 that Chris Rose did. So both of us obviously very happy that he came through yesterday. He is somebody he's a very interesting player because Cronenworth is boring. He doesn't really run. He's got 10 home runs this season. He's hitting 267. He's got a 331 on base percentage, a 463 on base percentage. Like, he's just bleh, right? But the thing is, the just bleh that's in the lineup every day, the just bleh that drives in runs every day. Jake Cronenworth is on pace to hit 270, 22.95, which again is not great. But as a corner infield option in a mixed league, I'm not going to look askance at that. That's a hell of a lot better than Justin Turner I've got in one league. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like the Nathaniel Lowe, Jake Cronenworth type of player has a lot of value. And it's not sexy or exciting value. It's a compiling value. And a lot of people don't like that. I mean, he's got 1 steal and 10 home runs. It's very boring. But also look at this. Where does he hit in the lineup? 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th, 4th, 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 5th, 4th. He's right in the middle of the Padres lineup too. So he's going to knock in runs. So I just wanted to give a little tip to Cronenworth because he was very good in 2021. In 2022, he slid back a little bit, but he basically went 70, 90, 90. So 17, 90, 90, excuse me. So he's still very effective. Last year, he was bad because he hit 10 home runs and he drove in 48. He was bad last year. He is back to being who he was in 2021 and 22. And with that, he's a potentially usable, even valuable piece in the game of fantasy. Yeah, just wanted to give him a little shout out. And he's also played 18 games at second base and 49 at first base, so he probably qualifies at 2 spots. Another feather in his cap. Now, a guy like Cronenworth might be really important to somebody who has Anthony Rizzo on their team. There is a growing sentiment that Anthony Rizzo, who was out of the lineup yet again yesterday, they've been using, the Yankees have DJ LeMahieu at first, Oswaldo Cabrera at third, 2 straight games now. There is a growing line of thought that Anthony Rizzo could be replaced as the everyday first baseman for the Yankees. Now, he's almost 35 years old. He is Anthony Rizzo. He's had a great career, all of that. He's not been very good offensively for a couple of years now. He had 30 home runs, 75 RBIs in 2022. Last season, he played under 100 games. He had the concussion, and it just wasn't very good last year. It was just very blah. 706 OPS. I mean, blah. For a guy whose career mark is 830. And then this year, the numbers are even worse. His OPS is 623. It's really bad. He's not driving the baseball. He's not getting on base like he used to. His walk rate has never been lower. Pitchers are not as afraid of challenging him anymore as they used to be. And he's not taking advantage of it. And if you look at his batted ball data, it's terrible. His launch angle is down a little bit. His barrel rate is way down. His exit velocity is almost 4 miles an hour down from the last 2 years. At the end here, he's an aging player who's nowhere near the prime of his career anymore. He's in an area with a team and in a city that expects to win. If he was playing first base for the Marlins, he'd be playing first base with the Marlins, but this is the Yankees, right? So there is a chance that the recent trend of Rizzo not playing much is continued. There's a chance the Yankees make a trade. Like, this is correct. Again, the people are angry and you're hearing stuff out of the team that Rizzo's just not the same guy. And whether it was the head injury last year or it's just age. So if you have anything Rizzo on your team, be making plans that his days of playing every day for the Yankees, at least, might be coming to an end. On the pitching side of thing, we had 2 guys in the core 4 yesterday, different on the hill. I'll be writing the core 4 and the cash game breakdown over at fantasyguru.com after the show. Erick, Fedde, and Logan Gilbert were both in the core 4 for FanDuel and DraftKings, respectively. And I said last night on the show, the Elite Sports Game Time Show, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10 Eastern with Fensterman. I said, look, I'm expecting a quality start from Logan Gilbert because that's all he does. And he went out and posted a quality start. And with Erick Fedde, it was a price point situation on FanDuel where he was like 8,600, 8,500, 8,400, something like that, which opened up our ability to really spend on offense. And Fedde went out there and allowed 1 run in 7 innings. And he is someone that I've written about at fantasyguru.com. I'll have a nice ramblings piece out later today. He's someone we've talked about here on the show. Fedde's returned from going to the KBO, and he's been really good. He's been really, really good. He had 7 innings of 1-run baseball last night. And what happened? He got a no decision. I mean, and this is, there are guys that are some players out there that are very effective that they're on poor teams and don't get a lot of run support, and that's Erick Fedde. He's with the White Sox team that's terrible. They don't win games. We all know that. He was pulled from the game with a 4-1 lead and got a no decision. 3.10 ERA through 14 starts. Here's the thing. We are hearing that the White Sox and I've said this previously. I don't remember if it was on this show or not. The White Sox are trending toward legitimately being one of the worst teams of the last 50 years in Major League Baseball. Like, it's bad. And there are all kinds of reports suggesting that they're looking to trade Luis Robert, that they might trade Garrett Crochet, that Erick Fedde's on the block. Like, this team is historically bad right now, and they're basically talking about trading their 3 best players. So, it could get even worse. Could be good news for Erick Fedde, though. He could get traded to a team where he actually gets some run support, and, maybe that bolsters his fantasy value the rest of the way. Again, I've been very impressed by him. I've been overly impressed based upon expectations. I thought, let's get a league average guy. And again, it's a long season and we're not halfway through and all of that. Normal caveats here, but he's exceeded my expectations and he continues to be very effective on the hill. He was again last night. And I think if he got traded, that wouldn't be a bad thing, would it? So let's hope it kind of happens. The White Sox are, again, a terrible team right now. They're spiraling out of control. And we saw it late again last night. Michael Kopech came in after Jordan. Michael Kopech and Jordan Leisure blew this game. They were tattooed by the Mariners. Kopech gave up 3 runs, took a blown save. Would they trade Kopech? If they're trading everyone else, why not? I don't know what they'd get. He's making $3 million. He's not a free agent until 2026, so he's got another year of arbitration control. He's going to make $5 million next year. It's not an unreasonable rate for a solid pitcher. Is he a solid pitcher? He's got a 31% strikeout rate, which is fantastic. He's got a 14% walk rate, which is horrible, just horrible. His home run per 9 rate is 1.98. And, since the start of last season, his home run per 9 rate is 2. And we're talking about 160 innings. It's 2. That is catastrophic. Why is it that way? Because he's a 2-pitch pitcher who throws 1 pitch. What's his percentage of fastball usage here? Let me see this stuff. They changed things up here with Fangraphs. And I'm, it's me, but I don't like it. Leave it the same way. Like, I don't like it. Change, make it better. Okay, fine. But everything's in a different spot. Okay. He throws his fastball 80% of the time this year. It's never been harder. He's throwing it 99 miles an hour, but he's throwing it 80% of the time. Unless you're Mariano Rivera, there's not many guys that can throw basically 1 pitch, even as a closer, and have success. And so he doesn't control the strike zone well, and he gets hammered. And, again, he's got an ERA of over 5 since the start of last season. His whip is over 1.5 since the start of last season. I don't give a damn about the strikeouts. He's just not a good pitcher, whether he's starting or relieving. It's just not. It's never happened for him. Remarkably, he's only 28 years old. I guess it still could because he does have a live arm. He needs to be traded because it's just not working in Chicago. Hasn't worked in Chicago. It's not going to work in Chicago. And he's a mess in the bullpen. Again, Jordan Leisure, he was terrible last night. He and John Brebbia would be kind of the directions to go if Kopech was traded or they wanted to make a move in the 9th inning. But does it matter if this team is winning 1 game a week? I exaggerated it a little bit, 2 games a week. Don't think it really does. Speaking of that, let's one more talk. Chris Paddack there. I just wanted to mention him. Chris Paddack, we've talked a lot about him at a player profile in the preseason at fantasyguru.com. Paddack continues to be effective. And I think that's what the Twins were hoping for. Last night, he was not just effective. He threw a quality start up there. It was 6 1/3 shutout innings. Now, it was against the Rockies, who are themselves not a very good offensive team. It comes on the heels of a 7-run beatdown against the Yankees. So there's been this. Look at his last 5 starts. 2 runs, 2 runs, 4 runs, 7 runs, 0 runs. Kind of all over the place from start to start. He's got basically a strikeout an inning. He's not beating himself with the walk. I think in total, he's made 13 starts. He's thrown 70 innings. In total, he's been effective. And he does have that nearly 5-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, which eventually works, right? So just wanted to give a little pat on the back to a guy that could be floating on the waiver wire. And, I think that in most leagues, that's probably not the way it should be. It should be something different. He has struggled mightily on the road. His ERA on the road is 8. His ERA at home is 2.8. So if you wanted to pick him up and try to play, it's small sample size, but you wanted to try to play the home road thing with him, maybe that's a valuable way to use him. But he's been effective, and he was very good last night, Chris Paddack. All right, let's talk about some other bullpen news. Anthony Munoz, and this is one of those great stories that we were joking and laughing about yesterday because it's like such the epitome of where we're at in baseball in 2024. The manager of the Mariners, Mr. Service, said that, look, I'm not going to give you much. He's talking to the media. I'm not going to give you much detail on what's going on with the back of Andres Munoz. Did I put Anthony? Isn't it Andres Munoz? Did I lose my mind? This happens in the morning sometimes. Yeah, it's Andres Munoz. I don't know why I put Anthony on the screen there. Sorry about that. He's got a back issue, and I'm not really going to tell you what's going on, but something's going on with his back, and we're monitoring this situation closely, and we'll continue to make decisions on whether to use him on a day-to-day basis. Great. So Andres Munoz, who has been very effective this season, who's got a massive 36% strikeout rate, who's got an ERA of 1.7, who has converted 12 of 13 save chances, who has been really, he's on pace for an ERA of 2 and 30 saves. He's been great. We don't know when he's going to pitch. We don't know how often he's going to pitch. We don't know if he's going on the injured list. We have no idea. It's not even, is he going to pitch the 9th inning, which the Mariners have used him a lot when the game's on the line, thinking he's their best pitcher. And that's especially, I think, the scenario because, you look at the Mariners bullpen, and let's not forget it's completely messed up. Brash has been out. Santos has been out. Spear is out right now. Like 3 of their top 5 relievers aren't even on the field right now. So, they're using Munoz when they need him to win games, I get. Ryan Stanek is the backup guy, so okay, but Ryan Stanek's just a guy. He's not a very effective pitcher, if we're being quite honest. If you have Munoz, what are you going to do? I've got him in one league. I think just one. What do you do? We don't know if he's even available. So this is one of those things like, if you've got the ability to change your lineup on a daily basis and you have other relief options, you probably don't because you either drafted Munoz as your 1 or your 2. Maybe you got fortunate and you picked up somebody off the waiver wire or something like that, or maybe you drafted Cal Finnegan late. It's kind of just limbo with Munoz. So I'd like to see how things are handled this week before making a final determination. I hope they'll put him on the injured list if he needs some time or pitch him. But again, that's a hope. And that's the real thing with Munoz, that this is, this has been kind of what we've dealt with Munoz. He's only 25, but there's always seemingly something kind of going wrong here. And as a result, he's been very effective at times, but also been unable to give depth and been unable to be someone we could count on a consistent basis. He has been groomed to be a closer. Again, he's on pace for his first 30 save season. He is now technically 5 years into his career. It began in 2019. He's got 30 career saves. It's a little disappointing, but the stuff is wondrous. We'll just have to see if the back holds up. Continue to monitor that one. Jordan Romano resumed throwing. He's been throwing the last couple of days. He's hoping to get back out on the mound later this week. He's out with that elbow issue that he's been dealing with. He's eligible to return from the injured list on Saturday. Seems like that's wildly optimistic at this point if he's not even throwing off the mound yet. This is not to say that he couldn't be back in a week or two, but right now he's clearly not going to have that short stay that they were hoping for. He's clearly not going to be activated on Saturday unless something crazy goes on here. And Romano's another guy. It's why I hesitated a little bit to push him on folks in the preseason. He continues to be very effective and to rack up saves. But he's, there's always something with him too. And we're in that zone with him, and we'll see. Right now, obviously, Yimi Garcia is the guy to have rostered. If you made that decision, when we talked about it, it's like, well, maybe you get 3 or 4 saves out of Garcia. We'll see how it goes. Romano's starting to look like, again, he's going to miss potentially twice as much time as we were initially hoping. I'm guessing there, but it's certainly not going to be the one time, right? So we'll see with Romano. We'll monitor it. Right now, Garcia's there. Green is also, Chad Green is someone that, picked up a save the other day. All of us continuing to wait for the Blue Jays to start hitting and for Jordan Romano to return to action. Kyle Tucker, who hit that ball off his shin, that happened live when we were on the Elite Sports Game Time show, again, 8 to 10, Monday through Thursday, Sirius XM, Fantasy Sports Radio. When this happened right now, like he tried to stay in the game and couldn't. We talked about it on the show, like, oh gosh, hope he didn't break anything. Didn't break anything. Good news. They said he's going to be fine. They ended up putting him on the injury list. He wasn't fine. I get it. He just got off crutches, and it's like, okay, I get this. All right, I get it. But you hear he's on crutches for 5 days, and it's like, is he really going to be back in 10 days? Now, maybe they're playing it super conservative, and he's got things on electrodes on his legs and promoting healing. You know how these guys, they're doing everything they can to minimize this. You or I would just be sitting on the couch going, ow, ow, ow. With him, they're actively trying to manage this thing. But, crutches for some days, So he hasn't done any running yet, obviously. He hasn't been doing baseball activities, obviously. There is a chance he'll return later this week. I guess theoretically on Friday, he'll be eligible. I don't know. As we're sitting right here on a Tuesday morning, that seems pretty aggressive for a guy that just got off crutches after not doing anything for a couple of days. But maybe there'll be no IL stint and they'll throw him right back out there. We'll see. As discussed when the injury occurred, the concern obviously is that is he going to be able to do the dynamic athletic things that make him such a special player when he returns? Is he going to be able to run? It's his front leg. Is he going to be able to drive against that leg and power the baseball to the opposite field? We'll have to see. He was working on yet another great season. Hopefully this is a minor hiccup. He still plays 145 games and it's great for us. But we'll have to continue to monitor the situation with him. His teammate Yainer Diaz has a bruised right index finger. He didn't start yesterday, just throwing that out there. Victor Caratini's done a really good job as a support piece to Diaz this year. Does not sound like that injury to Diaz is something that we should be worried about long-term at all. Wanted to use it really just as a springboard to kind of have a quick discussion about him. Last year, he broke out in his rookie season, hit 280 with 23 home runs, 60 RBIs. He was somebody that a lot of people were pushing really aggressively this preseason in terms of drafting and their expectations with him. What has occurred to date? Kind of what we talked about in the preseason. He's gone from being a superstar, all-star caliber performer to, better than just a guy, but more than that. The real issue that we spotlighted in the preseason with him is he doesn't walk. He just doesn't. He's got 20 walks and 616 plate appearances. He doesn't walk. And when you hack a lot, you eventually pay some of the price there. His isolated power mark is down 100 points from last year. That's really, that's really significant. His launch angle is down over 3%. That's very significant too. His barrel rate's down 5%. So the batting average piece, I can see him hitting 265, 70, doing what he's doing now. I think that's totally doable. And again, he hit 280 last year. But he's not lifting the baseball as well. He's not driving the baseball as well. And that's an issue. And I think another issue for him is that it's very easy to look at splits and say, it's a small sample size. And to some respect, it, kind of is. Right. But his splits aren't massive per se, but he's got an 831 OPS against righties in his career, and it's 658 against lefties. That's a significant difference. And, his 389 slugging against lefties, he has a hard time against lefties. So he's the same side guy, which is not as common as you would think, right? Most of the time we look for the lefty-righty thing. In the case of Diaz, he wants a righty on the hill. Bottom line is he's been fine. Has not been great, hasn't lived up to last year's expectations, and certainly hasn't lived up to some, not us, but some people's hopes for him in 2024. Hunter Renfroe, I don't know if you saw this with Hunter Renfroe. Maybe you say, I don't care, Ray. Well, and that's fair. But the last 15 games, he was hitting 326 with 3 home runs. Like he really had started to hit. His OPS had gone up like 150 points in 2 weeks. He really had started to hit. But he's almost certainly ended up on the injured list. It hadn't officially happened here before the show began. Fracture in his left big toe. He had a ball off his foot. Again, this is just a FYI kind of thing, as well as stating that, there's 2 guys in particular that if they see an increase in playing time, we'd be interested. Maybe it's Adam Frazier and then no one cares. Okay. With Duran Blanco, this guy could be this year's Esteury Ruiz. Blanco could steal 50 bases. He's in that Esteury Ruiz, Billy Hamilton zone. If he's not a great hitter, he doesn't have much power. He's not going to be in the lineup on a consistent basis, but he can blaze. So maybe Daron Blanco gets extra work. If that's, I'm watching a little bunny rabbit run across my backyard. Sorry. If Blanco gets the spot, that'd be intriguing. And another name that would be intriguing, maybe Drew Waters gets called up from the minors. Waters is someone we've talked about. I don't know if we talked about him on the show because it might have been prior to the show. Maybe last year we got into him at the end of the year. But Waters is someone that used to be a Braves prospect. In theory, he's a 15 to 20 guy in terms of home runs. He's a 25-30 guy in terms of steals. Holes in his game, contact woes, doesn't control the strike zone very well, hit tools and serious question after it, expecting it to be at least an average tool, if not slightly better. Now it's below average. That's what most people think. But there's power speed here. And it's the quintessential what we're kind of getting stuff from, Randy Arozarena right now. Like that's the kind of stuff that Drew Waters can do. I don't know if he can be better than that. But if he is promoted, it's certainly in an AL-only league. Huge interest there. And even in mixed leagues. Oh my gosh, we got 2 bunnies in the backyard. 2 little bunnies. Go bunnies. If he's promoted, that is somebody that's got power and speed and maybe someone we should be talking about. Elias Diaz, the catcher for the Rockies, who was doing so well this season, has a tight left calf that caused him to be removed from the game last night. Let's see what happens. Jacob Stallings filled in, obviously, for Elias last night. Haven't heard yet. Again, it's 8:30 in the morning on the West Coast. Haven't heard yet what this means. Diaz is hitting 300. He's got a 350 on-base percentage. He's been one of the better non-elite catchers in baseball. It would be a significant loss if he is indeed out. Stallings has performed adequately this year. He's a Rocky. You can make the move if you're in a deeper league, 2-catcher league, and hope that Colorado leads him to something if he indeed is playing on a daily basis with Diaz out. But let's obviously hope that Diaz stays active. Oh, the little rabbit's on the window. Let's hope that Diaz stays active because he's had a very solid season to date. One of the few Rockies who's actually had a very solid season to date offensively. Wilmer Flores, who my hand is up because I added him this week. I needed a corner infield guy. Looking at him playing consistently with the Giants' injury issues. He's now got a sore knee. He wasn't in the lineup yesterday, the starting lineup for the Giants. If the Giants didn't have Soler, maybe Wilmer Flores could have DH last night. This is not expected to be a significant thing. You might say to yourself, Ray, is this just a vanity project? Are you just trying to talk about Wilmer Flores because he's on your team because you were forced to pick him up? Fair. But also, as we talked about, I think we mentioned it yesterday. I mean, Wilmer Flores, we talked about the waiver stuff. Wilmer Flores, the last, 2 weeks, has got 3 home runs and 7 RBIs, and he's got an 892 OPS. The last 6 games, he's gotten all 7 of those RBIs and is batting .350. Last year, he had 24 home runs and hit .289. He qualifies at second and first in a lot of leagues. An effective player, we need him to be on the field. Let's hope that is the case, and we're assuming it will be. Does not appear to be a long-term injury with Wilmer Flores. Matt Chapman, his teammate, was also out of the lineup for the Giants. That's 2 straight games that he has missed with a hamstring issue. The good news here is he's expected back on Tuesday, which is obviously today. Let's hope that Chapman is indeed able to get back out there. Chapman, who started slowly, then really picked things up, continues to have these excellent batted ball numbers, continues to be overall a moderate offensive player, but has come around greatly from that slow start. And he's obviously a usable corner infield guy in a mixed league without getting overly excited. Manny Machado, hoping to be more than that. He missed 4 starts with a hip issue. He returned to the lineup yesterday as a DH for the Padres. He's been searching for it, and he hasn't quite found it yet. And it seemed like there were some hints that it was coming around, and he started hitting 300 and 350 on base percentage, but he wasn't driving the baseball. He hasn't been able to, and he's admitted this, put his swing together yet. So, you don't do what he's done for a decade and then just stop hitting. I mean, it does happen, but it's not. I don't think it's going to happen here with Manny Machado. I think that the hope is obviously he'll be healthy and that, he's going to finally lock in. That's my expectation. Talking earlier about when to buy or sell, Manny Machado is someone I'd be buying. He's coming off an injury, not a significant injury. No one's expecting that to be the case. He's underperformed based upon expectations. He doesn't have the batting average right now. He doesn't have the home runs right now. Manny Machado, probably someone you get certainly on a discount, and I'd be interested in following that up. Joe Ross had a setback. The pitcher for the Brewers had a setback with his back. Not that he was necessarily somebody you were pining for, but you probably had him on your IL hoping he'd come back and be an effective pitcher for the Brewers. There is an opportunity for him to be in that rotation if he can get healthy. He's having a problem getting healthy. He was supposed to have begun a rehab assignment by now. It hasn't happened yet. Hopefully next week. But he did have that setback. So the return in 10 days for him, that is not something we're going to be looking for with Joe Ross. Maybe it's the end of the month. Again, does that matter? I bring that up more so we can talk about that final guy that I mentioned, that Robert Gasser. And I think we talked about this on the show. Again, I'm sorry everything rolls together anymore. Robert Gasser got an opinion on his arm. The first opinion said, I think we're okay. Second opinion said, I don't think we're okay. I think he probably needs surgery. So they went for a third opinion. When you get two opinions, generally speaking, that's not good. When you go for a third opinion, I mean, you're looking for a tiebreaker, right? But when you go for a third opinion, there's a problem. I think that's right. And I think when you see I'm going for a third opinion, the question becomes, how big of a problem is it? Not, is there something that needs to be addressed? Because that's, the manager, Pat Murphy of the Brewers, basically said yesterday when talking to the media that I can't guarantee you that Robert Gasser is done for the season. I can't guarantee you he's going to have surgery. But I'm kind of expecting him to be done for the season and have surgery. So, again, we don't have anything definitive on this, but three opinions is something that we have talked about with Gasser. I think we talked about it last week when he was getting the second opinion. Maybe that's what we had the discussion about here on the show. But bottom line is, I think anyone that had Gasser and got that nice little pick-me-up, even though it wasn't dominant work, it was effective work, and he was, going out there and giving you a quality start opportunity. It looks like that's over for this season. The Brewers are, they need pitching. Everyone kind of needs pitching. We do in fantasy space too. But, looks like Gasser's probably done for the year. We just talked about Joe Ross. He's not done for the year, but he can't get healthy. D.L. Hall's having issues with his knee still. He's going for further testing. Like, he's up in the air. Wade Miley's got Tommy John surgery, so he's done. Brandon Woodruff had shoulder surgery. Like, in a ideal Brewers scenario, the rotation would have been Brandon Woodruff, Wade Miley, D.L. Hall, Freddie Peralta, and probably Joe Ross, right? And right now their starting rotation is Tobias Myers, Colin Ray, Bryce Wilson, and Freddie Peralta. Like, ugh. And remember how recently it was Burns, Peralta, and Woodruff. And those three guys, it's like, no one wants to face the Brewers in the playoffs. My God, those three guys. Now it's Freddie Peralta or bust. So Carlos Rodriguez is starting on Tuesday for the Brewers, which is obviously today. This rotation is messy. This is a rotation that, for the most part, we're looking to attack with our bats. It's amazing to see the Brewers 12 games over 500 right now and actually leading the Central Division, like with this pitching. So give them full marks for piecing this together. I think a lot of it has to do with their offense and defense and some good coaching and all of that. But it's hard to imagine this working. And let's not forget, too, Devin Williams, their closer, has been out with his back issue, right? So they've dealt with tons of injuries. They've weathered the storm. If they can start to get some of these pieces back, maybe we got something with the Brewers. Unfortunately, it does not look like Robert Gasser is going to be one of those pieces that they get back. All right, so let's look at your comments here. So we're looking. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. This is Fantasy Sports Daily. Chaka says, morning, Chaka. By the way, Chaka told me that he's been following my work for a long time, and I said I appreciate it. I'll give you a public shout out here, Chaka. Thank you. It means a lot, and I've been doing this. I think. So what is this? My 23rd year full time. I think that's my 23rd year full time, and there are probably 100 people in the world that have done that. Honestly, I've been stupid enough to do this for 23 years full time. So I've put a lot into this, heart and soul. I've told the stories many times before, missing family events and dates, and having fun and vacations and all that. So it really matters. It means a lot to me, I think I should say. It means a lot to me when someone says, hey, Ray, I used to be with you at Baseball Guys when you used to have your blog. Or, it means a lot. So thank you to Chaka and everyone else out there that's been around for a long time, that's followed me from the various here to here, at least here with FantasyGuru.com. We found a home, and we've been here for years now. It hasn't been the bump and grind and 6 months here and 2 years here kind of thing. But it's been a wild ride. I recently just started reading Ron Chandler's book. I think it's called Fantasy Expert. Larry Schechter wrote a book on the history of fantasy sports. He's actually sending me a copy of that. He sent me the PDF, and now he's actually sending me the book. So I've been doing a lot of reminiscing recently about kind of the industry and where it was and where it's gotten to and where it's going to be in a few years. My role in all of that is a small one, but it's been a fun ride, and I appreciate all of you that are here. If this is your first year, I appreciate you too. And we may or may not say that enough, but the fact is we all get a little grumpy and a little irritated at times because sometimes people are asshats. It's true. But the majority of all of you are good people that I think have good intentions, and we really do appreciate your patronage. So thank you. Doug says, morning, Ray and FG family, morning. Doug says, it's got to be hard to accept the elite skills you have are fading. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's not directed at me, Doug. Hopefully my skills are still elite, I guess. But yeah, that's the game that the game is so much, and all of the games, but baseball, I think in particular, is really about making adjustments, because you're going to wake up one day and your left elbow is not going to work the same, or you had that knee injury and you just can't move the way you used to, or maybe your eyesight got a little worse, or maybe your reaction time is slowing a little bit. It's tough. And so these guys in any sport, particularly baseball, that, for 9, 10, 12 years, just get it done year after year. It's so difficult, just in general. And then when you think the ravages of time, having to deal with that, it's tough admitting to yourself. And I was actually having this conversation with my significant others. We were talking. No, who was it? Was it with her? Oh yeah, it was with her. We were having this discussion the other day at brunch on the beach. I know we're really exciting talking about Steph Curry, but we were talking about Steph Curry, and it's like she kind of said, how long is Steph Curry going to play? And I said, well, if we're being truthful, Steph Curry can play as long as he wants. I mean, legitimately, he could play as long as he wants. Now, would he want to transition from being the star of the team, taking 22 shots and scoring 25 points a night, to a guy coming off the bench, playing 18 minutes a game and taking 7 shots? Does he want to do that? I don't think he has any appetite for that. But could he do that for another 10 years? Yeah, you're damn right he could, because he's arguably the greatest shooter of all time, right? He could fill that role of bench guy, long distance shooter off the bench, and do it for years. Not have to worry about playing big minutes, playing defense, or anything like that. Would he want to do that? He could transition to that. Would he want to do that? And that's another thing, too, with these athletes. At some point, you realize your skills are diminishing. In baseball, like, how could you do that in baseball? Like, if you're Bryce Harper, do you want to be the 5th outfielder? Well, you could, right? It's the same kind of idea. Now the difference is the 5th outfielder might only play 4 times a week. Steph Curry would still play every game, right, coming off the bench. So there's that too. But it's very difficult to age and to do it gracefully and successfully. And when you lose your skills, and hopefully I haven't lost mine, it does get a little more challenging. Tony C says, great job with the cash game breakdown yesterday, Ray. Thank you. You're welcome, Tony. Yeah, I think that's going pretty well. And I think that on the wagering side of things as well over at fantasyguru.com, we do have multiple packages for all the sports. So if you want to still get involved with the baseball with us, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. You can get the seasonal product, you can get the DFS product, you can get the wagering product. I think I've started to really hone in on the wagering part too. It's taken me a while. It's taken me longer than I wanted to and hoped for. But again, as I've been open with everybody, I'm never in my life I've ever been a gambling guy. So I think that after 2.5 months here, we're starting to feel good about where we're at. Hit another one last night, which Jordan Alvarez. And yeah, so I appreciate that, Tony. I'm glad things. We had one rough day on the DFS breakdown last week where I think it was, and I said this, like every guy I had in all the 6 pitchers, like 4 of the 6 gave up like 6 runs. It was without question the worst day I've ever had predicting pitching. We've been better at that since. So thank you, Tony. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. I'm good with that. Let's keep it rolling. As Optimus Prime would say, let's roll. I'm good with that. Great filibuster says, thank you for the MLB coverage. You got it. Just a great segue here. We've started as we did last week, and we'll continue moving forward now. The visits from our guys at fantasyguru.com who are going to join us here on the show Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Armando Marsal will be on tomorrow. Tyler Beaker will be on Thursday. Russell Clay will be on Friday. All of those guys are visiting about 11:30 Eastern time, so about half an hour into the show. This week is running back week. So last week was quarterback week, of course. This week's running back, so we'll talk to all 3 of those guys. But we will, as I've said many times, continue to talk baseball. We're not giving up on baseball. We're not going to do that here at Fantasy Sports Daily. And then finally, Brandon A says, morning, Ray and the fam. It's Friday, people. Let's go. Brandon, I don't know where you're living, but my calendar does not say Friday. So I wish it was. And you know what? And I was lamenting this a little bit. I work every day. And a lot of people work every day. My lady friend, she works every day. Everyone works every day. Man, it's a lot. I'm writing DFS articles. I'm writing seasonal articles. I'm doing bets. I'm doing a show every night with Justin. I'm doing a show with Jeff. I'm doing this show. I'm actually writing football articles behind the scenes for our football product. It's over at fantasyguru.com. It's a lot. And I wish, even if it's Friday's a little bit better for me. It's my slowest day of the week. There's still a lot going on. Friday's kind of become football day after we do this show and the baseball. So I guess no rest for the weary. And as you can see there on the screen, the football product is available. Get your piece of the pie, if you will. And remember, if you get the Elite Seasonal Only package, which is everything you see on the screen there and more, full season coverage, all of the rankings, all of the preseason knowledge, access to Discord, live stream, all of that. If you get the Elite Seasonal package, you get the Elite NFL Data Plan, which gets you all the fancy math and numbers to help analyze players. You get the NFL Franchise Mode. You get access to all of our CFL and UFL content. Great team there. The Marlin, helping people win a lot of money there in those setups as well in the DFS angle. And then you also get the rest of the season, which is over half the year, of the MLB seasonal product just tossed in for free. So go to fantasyguru.com, sign up for that, any of the football packages, any of the baseball packages. And if you sign up for Elite Seasonal in football, you get the seasonal baseball package for free. There you go. How do you beat that here on a Tuesday? All right, so we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Romano Marcel will join me to talk some football, as I noted, after our baseball talk. Thanks for the comments and questions. I really appreciate everyone doing that. As always, I'm Ray Flowers, and this has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.